Hey Eastview, it's Josh again here. I'm the pastor of young adults here at Eastview, and I love diving into the Word with you all weekly. And so if you haven't caught our other daily devos already from this week, I highly encourage you to go back and watch some of those. We attack and we look at the text from different angles, and we see all the things that God is trying to speak to us as a church body through His Word. And so John chapter 5 is another powerful text where Jesus provides a healing. We're in this miracles series, and if you didn't read the text already, if you haven't watched these other daily devos, Jesus walks up to this paralytic man who's at the pools of Bethesda, which is, there's some myths that there's these certain times when the waters would stir and there'd be a great race to the water so that people could find the healing that it would give to the first person to touch the water. And so the man was sitting on his mat. He was a paralytic, so he couldn't get up and go. And he was always beaten to the water first, right? Because he couldn't walk, right? Like, that's an issue if you want to be in a race. And so he can never get the healing. And so Jesus kind of comes up to him and is like, hey, and is talking to him. He learns his story. He asks him, do you want to be made well? And he eventually tells the man to pick up his mat and walk. And so he does this and he's healed. It's a miraculous thing, right? But it causes a controversy amongst the leaders, which when you read the text, it's just kind of like, why? What's the deal here? And maybe you can think of a time in your life when something really good happened in your life. Maybe something really good happened to you and you want to share with other people about it. Or maybe you're a part of something miraculous or something great happening in someone else's life. And then maybe it caused like some family drama for some reason. And you're like, why is this the case? Or some issues at work, or people were mad or jealous or whatever you can name. I'm sure there's times in your life when there was something good and you shared about it, and then the response was kind of wonky to that. And if you're not familiar with the Jewish custom, there a lot of times when Jesus talks against the Jewish leaders, it's because they're so concerned with following these extra laws and customs that they have passed down over the years, the oral tradition, where they would basically read the Torah and then they would interpret it for themselves, and they would add some extra rules on top of it and be like, oh, it means this and this too. It'd be like if I was reading John 5 today and I told you, hey, this is what Jesus said, but now I actually think he wants to say these two things too, so you need to do these two things too. Like, sure, like as followers of Jesus, the Holy Spirit can lead us and pass and to speak truth to us, but he doesn't give us the authority to start making new rules on his behalf. And so that's kind of what the Jewish leaders were doing. And Jesus oftentimes would talk about how the Jewish leaders provided or gave these oral traditions, and it was like a weight that is just unbearable. That the law was already hard enough to measure up to, and we were already too sinful to do that. And now you're adding extra things that are just impossible for a typical human to do. So Jesus performs this healing on the Sabbath, which is God restoring the natural order of things. He's bringing restoration to someone that others in society would have looked at and said, your sin or your parents' sin or your grandparents' sin is what led you to this place. And Jesus brought this man back to full healing in this. And it caused a controversy because it didn't happen in the way the Jewish leaders wanted to see it go down. So maybe this week or today, I want you to just think about, is there a burden that you've been carrying too long that actually isn't from Jesus? Something that you feel like, oh, I have to do this, but in all reality, that's not what Jesus is calling to you. It's not in his word. It's not his heart for you. His heart for you is to bring you to full restoration and healing in him. And that's the Jesus that we serve. Love you, Eastview.